Hey guys. So my name's Elan, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the evolution of storytelling, and hopefully the future of storytelling, right? Like, what is the epitome of the narrative process that we as human beings have achieved? I'm talking, of course, just about chat roulette here. You guys, you should have seen some of the pictures I didn't use here. There's a whole lot of sausage on that pizza. All right, so the evolution of storytelling. I've been telling stories professionally for about a decade now, and if there's only one thing you get out of this talk that you walk away with, I really hope it's this, that as storytelling evolves, those who cling on to what's comfortable and cling to history and force their audiences to consume stories in ways that are outdated, they will always fail, and they will be replaced with something else. And let's start at the beginning to back up a huge statement like that. The mechanisms by which we tell stories have changed quite a bit, and storytelling is one of the things that makes us human. Stories themselves, though, actually haven't changed all that much. I mean, if we look at this cave painting here, we've got the technologically advanced humans with their modern weapons fighting off foreign species that are invading. I can just hear James Cameron's lawyer picking up the phone right now. But the mechanisms that we use to tell stories actually keep changing, and there haven't been that many of them. We'll look at just a few. There's been, in the 16th century, the emergence of modern Western theater. There's the printing press in 1436, the motion picture camera in 1888, and all of this gaining momentum, leading us up to today, us, the internet. And when I say the internet, I don't just mean us on computers. There's the surrounding networks as well, right? There's our cell phones. We talk about Twitter and email accounts and Facebook and our social networks and all these mechanisms that make up the internet. So when I say the internet, I don't mean the internet. I mean the internet. All of these systems that we use. Okay, so in order to tell you about how we tell stories in this modern day, I have to tell you a personal story. In 2001, I was working at Microsoft. I was a lead game designer in Studio X, which most of you know today as the Xbox. And one day I got called into a meeting with Steven Spielberg, and we had just formed a partnership to make games about his new movie, AI. Some of you have probably seen this movie. Yeah, for those who haven't, this is a story about a young boy who's actually a robot who wants more than anything to be real. He wants the love of his family, the love of his mom, to feel real human emotion, and it doesn't go so well. He gets abandoned out in the forest. He literally gets abducted into slavery. He witnesses torture and despair and murder. Eventually he gets trapped at the bottom of the ocean. There's an ice age. All of humanity gets wiped out. This is like an intense, heartbreaking, gut-wrenching story. How many people do you think walked out of the theater thinking, "Ooh, I can't wait to play the video game"? So we had a very unique problem here, and what we thought we could do is tell a different kind of story. And so what we did was we took the one sheet and we inserted a fictitious credit. Directed by Steven Spielberg, produced by Kathleen Kennedy, sentient machine therapist, Janine Sala. And enough people scratched their head and thought, well, what the hell is a sentient machine therapist? And you do a Google search and you find this woman's webpage. And she says, yeah, I worked on the movie. And here's a link to where I went to school, and here's some friends' pages. And by the way, here's a memorial. A friend of mine who died under very mysterious circumstances. If you know anything about it, call. And you could call the number. It was right there on the webpage. And you'd hear a message. And the message was giving you information about the funeral that you could actually attend. We had all these actors set up for this actual thing. And there was a clue there that would lead you to another website, and that website led to another website, and round this process went, leading you through this adventure on the internet. It spanned literally thousands of web pages and phone numbers and email addresses and all these mechanisms by which we decided to tell a story. Now, this was known as, a lot of people call this sort of the first alternate reality game. We did not call it that at the time. We called it a way to save our jobs. But there's something really interesting about this. Scattered throughout this project, here I'm going to show you, this is just a screenshot of some of the television spots we did. I kept inserting this phrase, this is not a game. And the reason that I kept putting it in, it seemed very important to me at the time to say as boldly as I could, this is not a game, this is real. I'm going to tell you exactly what this is, what this isn't, and how you as the audience should experience it. Turns out that was a really, really poor idea, but I didn't know why at the time. And so put that in a box. We're going to come back to that in a second. Because first I want to tell you about my dad. My dad owns an antique store. And this is the logo for his antique store. And just so you get on the same page as me, okay, ready? Here is the name of my father's antique store. Antiques, yeah. I know, let it out, just groan, it's therapeutic, yeah. You guys only have to deal with this for one slide. I have to deal with this for my entire life. So my dad calls me into his store all the time with these great treasures that he's found. And one of the ones he found, I was so excited, he had a first edition print of Robinson Crusoe. This is a really significant book. This book is old. This is 1719. And this is the first bound, distributed novel in the English language. And I am over the moon. I mean, this thing is so cool. I'm flipping through the pages. It's totally falling apart. But the first page of the book was the most interesting to me. Because on the first page, it said this: the editor believes this thing to be a just history of fact. Neither is there any appearance of fiction in it. Holy crap. Defoe is lying to his audience on the first page of this book. He is shouting as loud as he can, this is not fiction. Sounds kind of familiar, right? He's telling his audience how to consume this, what this isn't, what this is. And the reason is because at the time, there was no fiction. Like, everything bound and distributed was like, the Bible and the dictionary and the almanac and periodicals. And stories were for kids. They were trivial. And so he felt compelled to do this terrible, what I think, terrible thing. But I started looking at it, and it was the same thing that I was doing. Now, ultimately, this failed and was replaced by something else. Audiences would not accept this. We all know what it was replaced with, Once Upon a Time. And we see this all the time. This is now a collaboration between the storyteller and the audience. We all agree to use our imagination. It's a collaborative dance. But back then, this is all they had. And I started looking at this and thinking, man, I'm doing the same thing. This guy's the original article. I'm just sort of following in his footsteps, making a stupid mistake, which failed and was replaced. And maybe I should be really careful about this. But before I do anything rash, let me look at other examples. Let's see if this shows up anywhere else. And sure enough, it does. I looked at the motion picture camera. The first movies ever made are not what you think of when you think of movies. The camera turns on, and what you see are curtains. And the curtains draw, and you watch a stage play. You watch Shakespeare. And when it's over, the curtains close, and the camera turns off. Another way to phrase that is these are filmmakers screaming as loud as they can, these are not movies. Because movies were the things you go to see at the World's Fair, and they're little flicker boxes on the street showing a dancing monkey or a guy lifting weights above his head. They're trivial. They're kids' toys. And this is art. So let's make sure we yell as loud as we can what this isn't and what this is, and tell the audience how they should experience it. As we all know, this failed. You don't see this anymore. It was replaced with something else. It was replaced by a bunch of really smart guys who went in and started to define the grammar and syntax of what modern movies are. And they started doing zooms and cuts and pans. Cuts are really interesting. There's this huge resistance to the first cuts in movies, right? Cutting from one scene to another. They literally thought people were going to go insane if they saw a cut, right? Nothing in life is like that. You don't go from one place to another, so we can't do that. Oh, we were so cute back then. So the point here, though, is these things built up. These guys eventually figured out the right way to use this method, the storytelling mechanism, for what it's good at. And we eventually got big, bold, huge movies. So here's the thing. When we take the next step into internet storytelling, why is it that we take these big, bold, beautiful movies, shrink them down to the size of a postage stamp, and put them on a web page and say, done, internet storytelling, this is the future? It's really lame. But what it really is a bunch of people yelling as loud as they can, this is not the internet. Because the internet is big and scary and unknown. Movies we know how to make money off of movies. We know what the revenue model for a TV show is. We understand all that. let's not call this a movie. Let's tell the audience exactly what this isn't and exactly what this is, and we'll continue to be safe. This is a really terrible process, and it will fail, and it will be replaced. Let me show you just a few examples of some things that are a little bit better. This is a book that we published a few years ago called Kathy's Book. It's a book written from the point of view of an 18-year-old girl, and it's her diary. And we wanted to kind of explore what was possible, like how far you could take the publishing model. And so as you flip through the book, Kathy will say things like, "Oh, I'm so upset with my boyfriend. That guy's such a jerk. I'm going to go home and I'm going to tear up his picture and I never want to speak to him again." Turn the page of the book and his actual torn up picture falls out of the book. You can pick up the pieces and put them back together and suddenly you're looking at Kathy's boyfriend. Turn the picture over, his phone number is written on the back and you can call him and hear his voice. Everything in this book was real. All the web pages you could visit, all the email addresses you could actually write to, and all these artifacts would constantly fall out of the book. And we thought this was really interesting, and one of the things we did, we needed people to say, well, all right, Kathy is this 18-year-old girl, so we had to create a Facebook page for her, because what 18-year-old girl doesn't have a Facebook page? So we created a Facebook page, and when you do that, you have to list out a birth date for the character, for the person. And when we did that on Kathy's birthday, someone friended her and wrote happy birthday. And we thought, oh, that's really cool. And a few minutes later, she got another one, and I'm sure you know where this is going. By the end of the day, the thing was just inundated with these happy birthday notes. This was really significant for me. This is characters interacting, these are players, interacting with a fictional character. No one writes to Luke Skywalker and says, "Hey dude, sorry about your hand." Right? Like, that character lives in a different world. And when a character enters your world, it starts to form this collaboration and this magic, and it very much feels like another step in storytelling. I'll show you just a few other examples here. The next one is by a buddy of mine, Jay Bushman, and at South by Southwest last year, he did this thing called South by Star Wars, which was a Twitter feed. A bunch of people went online, they all assigned roles to each other, and they reenacted a scene from Star Wars. Okay, it's very possible that this whole thing is just intense geek porn, but I thought that there was something really interesting about that, something magical that happens during that collaboration. I'll show you another example of The Watchmen. When this movie came out, we thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool for you to get to live in that world? And so you go to this website, and the very first thing that happens is your phone rings, and it's a character from the movie, Rorschach. He's actually calling you on your phone, and he's going to have a discussion with you. And his big thing is he's got these Rorschach ink blot tests, right? And so he shows you one on the screen, and he asks you, what do you see? And as you have this conversation with him, anything that you say, that inkblot is going to start to morph into that. And it's going to unlock movie content. And again, it was another step into trying to figure out, what does collaborative storytelling mean? What is internet storytelling, instead of defining what it isn't? Now, am I saying that this stuff is the end-all be-all of internet storytelling, that we've taken this huge step in evolution and that we're finally at the end of the process there? No. Not at all. But that's okay, because what I am saying is that these things take time. Every time there's a new technological advance in the mechanisms by which we tell stories, it takes a while for us to figure out the right way to craft the correct stories for that mechanism. I also want to be careful not to say that we are at the beginning of a 30-year process here, and we've got 30 years to figure out how to tell stories on the internet. That's not where we are. We are well along that path. Let me show you how far along that path we are. Here's some interesting stats that I was able to dig up. The average television viewer today, 50 years old. The iPad, ABC's iPad app, in the first 10 days of its launch, it delivered over 600,000 TV shows on this new device. Twitter API requests per day, 3 billion per day. And the increase between 2007 and 2008 in the amount of online video we consume, an increase of 40%. So I hope this is really clear, at least, that we are witnessing another step in the evolution of storytelling. And I just want to say to all those companies out there who refuse to evolve, to those companies who sue their own users for creating alternate distribution mechanisms when the existing ones are inadequate, you're going to fail. And to those companies that insist on defining when we can watch their shows and where we can watch their shows, you're going to fail. And to those companies that scream what this is and what this isn't, and try to define that for the audience and instead of letting it be a collaboration, as long as you run scared of this evolution, you're going to fail, and your audience is going to go on and evolve without you. So thanks for letting me talk about this, guys.